what's your opinion about the mass privatization in Romania, especially through what we know as SIFs?
Yeah, when I worked in Romania, this was one of the topics which was quite relevant for the development of the capital market. However, a little bit forgotten. So it was, it was remembered as something that took place essentially in the 90s, and the concept was this, issuing vouchers, giving these vouchers to population with hopes that they will become shareholders, they will become aware of what they have, that they will consider this to be really something important and valuable for them. However, it didn't work well, and not only in Romania, in the Czech Republic, also this concept of privatizing the economy after the collapse of communism through issuing vouchers and going really very, very broadly and public was not successful, because it led to the concentration of those assets and power in favor of a very small group of interests. In the Czech Republic, it mainly served the interest of the financial institutions. In Poland, we had also something resembling this approach to privatization, but happily enough, it was with a very limited scope. So it only affected, so to speak, a relatively small number of companies. So the effects, which were not necessarily the best ones, were not so spread out over the whole economy. And Poland have chosen the way of rather selling the assets through different types of transactions, like stock exchange transactions, or to strategic investors, and this was the way a large portion of the Polish economy has been privatized. I think this way was quite effective.
In Romania, the SIFs have originally held like 30% of the economy, and there were like 17 million shareholders. Now they own much less than 30%, but there are still 7 million shareholders, the so-called dormant shareholders, who do not take action. How would you characterize this situation, and who takes advantage of this situation?
Well, it is quite obvious what is a disadvantage of this situation, because from the perspective of the capital market, these dormant accounts is like lost assets, because we could have had, I'm referring to my years when I worked in Romania at the Bucharest Stock Exchange, we could have had a new free float, like old and new, because of course these shares are held by some people, even by millions of people. So, and then counting these assets as millions of euro, it was never actually quite certain what is the value of these holdings. But I think we had estimations that this is at least a couple of hundreds of millions of euro, maybe even approaching 1 billion. So at that time, of course, this was one of the chances for the market, and solving this issue was not easy. It generally required the support of a few key institutions, like the ASF, obviously the stock exchange, also Depozitarul Central, and last but not least, I mean by far not least, the SIFs themselves. So unfortunately, we never had this situation situation that all these institutions were acting, in concert and cooperating in order to convert these dormant accounts into at least to a substantial part into assets that could be put again on the market. I managed also to get interested EBRD with this let's say problem, and we had a good discussion, and even there was a beginning of a project how to solve this problem. There was a concept that we figured out together with EBRD, a mission to Romania, and also involving some people from London, that, for instance, a special fund could be created, and this fund could make an offering to the holders of those accounts in order to ensure a sort of professional management of these assets. Of course, the biggest problem within this general problem was that a lot of people, assumingly, were not aware that they had these shares on their accounts. And the same now, and I think that now this is even deeper. 5-10 years ago already we had countless stories about people who already passed away, and their children or people who inherited were inheritance. They simply were not even aware of the fact that in the family there was such an asset, something like this. So in order to handle this aspect of the whole problem, it was necessary also to have a special law, that would somehow regulate the situation of those really dormant, not even dormant, but even unaware, so to speak, accounts. But there was never something like a decisive support for this kind of thinking. So it didn't happen. One of the arguments was, of course, that it was something like a constitutional issue as well. But of course, we had more unanimity as regards taking decisive actions, including regulatory action. Then this problem had a chance to be solved.
Who opposed more? Who should have done more? It was the ASF, it was the SIFs. Who opposed more this project?
Well, my memory tells me that mainly the ASF, or maybe not the ASF as a whole, but a part of ASF, and especially the head of the capital market division within the ASF, and we could say the SIFs themselves, even though I was always avoiding to generalize when it comes to the SIFs, because within this group of let's say funds or companies, I had a pleasure to talk to people who were professional in the thinking and doing about the business, and especially the business in the financial market. But unfortunately, there were also people who were opposing to any change, any reform, and they rather treated the SIFs as the playgrounds. So this small universe was not, I would say, was not homogeneous. However, not, I would say, progressive enough to form a strong force that would help us in implementing this kind of a reform. And of course, when it comes to this project that we had together with EBRD at a certain moment, which I mentioned, this concept of a fund that would concentrate the holdings was inevitably linked to the change of the famous, voting limits within the SIFs, which at the time was set at 5%. So obviously, this was also like a, like an obstacle for anyone that would like to solve this problem, and of course solve in a way which would be profitable for the one who would undertake such an action. So this 5% was really an impediment, and some of the SIFs, in a very determined way, defended this limit because it generated some, I would say, it generated something that they perceived as advantageous to the SIFs managers, especially.
Now we don't have this limit, 5% limit anymore, but we have another kind of situation. SIF1 controls SIF4, which controls SIF5. So SIF1 controls SIF4 and SIF5. How do you see, how did we get in such situation? What are the advantages? What are the disadvantages?
Well, I think that it clearly evolves into consolidation of assets, right? So it has a business logic, especially if we mean asset management efficiency under this business, which is here. So it sounds reasonable to have these assets that is a legacy of the privatization divided between five organizations. Definitely it makes some sense at the very beginning, and I can perfectly understand the rationale which was behind when the whole structure was created. But for the efficiency reasons, and also in order to lower the cost of this asset management, of course, the consolidation seems to be a better direction than to maintain the status quo. It would be to have all these dispersed between five or so organizations. Of course, this consolidation is far from being perfect, because still we have, theoretically we have five different funds, and I might guess that the decision-making processes are not that much, clear, transparent, and let's say optimal. And the SIFs are listed entities, so everything that could be, enhancing the way the underlying assets are managed, everything that could imply a higher valuation of the SIFs is, from a little bit broader perspective, is good. So I would rather support this, but I would be even more radical. Probably the future is rather just to liquidate these, these separate institutions, and just to have one fund. And of course, the more professional it will be, the better. And any ties or linkages with the privatization is rather now a sort of a memory. This way of thinking and the spirit which is around has, in my view, nothing to do with the privatization, with this mass ownership or democratic ownership. So ideas which were behind many years ago. However, one is still ahead of us. I mean, it would really be good to solve the problem of these dormant accounts, because it's not only about free float money and the valuation. It's also the question of financial education, financial literacy. It is a chance to really get new participants of the capital market on the side of retail investors. This is a quite a unique chance, or a chance to convert something which is now clearly like a missed opportunity into a very productive process that could really enhance some parameters of the market.
But
it should be a process.
In such consolidation process, do you think that this concentration, SIF-1, SIF-4, SIF-5, or consolidation, might have the interest to awake the dormant accounts, the unaware shareholders? Because we see something very interesting in Romania now. SIF-1, for instance, gives money to some investment funds. They buy for a commission shares for a SIF-1. They decrease the liquidity and they vote for the same management always. How do you see this situation?
The techniques are clearly evolving, but the objective remains the same. It was the same under my mandate at the Bucharest Stock Exchange, and this is of course a kind of a problem, because apparently there is a certain attitude which is still there. I mean, this attitude which puts at the first position the interest of certain people. So this is a problem. I wouldn't say that this is something characteristic only for Romania, but definitely the way to find the right balance is to proceed with some structural changes that would be brought by the law, by the regulator, by the changes within the regulations.
Mr. Sobolewski, while you're heading the Bucharest Stock Exchange, I followed you as a journalist, and you did some extraordinary things for the market. More transparency, more corporate governance. Who was your biggest opponent?
Well, I would prefer rather to concentrate on positive aspects of my mission to Romania. I think there is a list of considerable achievements. We managed to remove some
barriers,
some barriers and obstacles that were within the institutions of the central market infrastructure. Business-wise, I think that the more time has elapsed, the more people and market participants appreciate the existence of the aero market. I even met recently in Warsaw with one of the most important private investors from Romania, who said that really aero gives a substance for the market currently. So somehow, taking up what you said, I would comment on this, that of course the list of those positive changes could have been much longer, and the changes could have been even deeper if we had a broader support and more determined support from those who had really instruments in order to produce the change, which was not the case.
One more question, Mr. Sobolewski. Why the Warsaw Stock Exchange is so far away from the Bucharest Stock Exchange in terms of everything?
Well, a lot of explanations could be given in that regard. Of course, it's a different history. it's a different level of engagement of many people and institutions into the development of something that we call the capital market. It's also the question of the size of the economy. It's also the question, to a certain extent, of some decisions that could have been worse, but fortunately they were not that bad taken in the past. Yeah, we could probably talk about risk aversion and the level of financial education, a lot of elements. But all in all, I would say, because I'm a quite active observer of what's going on in the capital market in Romania now, that well, it could have been much worse. Now there is a lot of chances, and of course Romania is now put on this list, or is qualified as secondary emerging market by FTSE Russell, which was also one of my objectives. So I was enormously satisfied when it finally happened. Yeah, but then for sure is missing, and this is I would say projects that would define the market in a new way. So it's not sufficient to address the entrepreneurs and the investors, please come and list your companies and please invest, but some structural changes are needed in order to give to the market new impulses. So in order to define the picture of the market,
would you say that the way it evolved, the mass privatization process through the stock exchange in Bucharest, is one of the reasons? If you can say this, why? If you say is not, why?
No, this is certainly one of the reasons. I mean, this decision that was taken remotely in the past of, about the mass privatization and the creation of the SIFs, it was all rather counterproductive. I'm saying, with full awareness, rather, because there are minuses and pluses, but overall, I think it was something that, well, was not that fueling the forces of the market. And from this point of view, something which happened in 2013 and 14, so the listings of Nuclear Electrica, Romgaz, and Electrica, and some other companies, well, were the steps in good directions, again charged with some limitations and mistakes, like, for instance, selling a minuscule number of shares, right, to the market. So the fact that it was never big transactions, and of course, I had to use a lot of energy and efforts in order to convince everyone around that this thinking about dual listings, I mean, Bucharest, London, does not make any sense, and it's even a step backwards as regards the development of the market. And I was rather, this was rather confirmed by the numbers, by the reality, and so on. So I would say that there are also some, some convictions, some views. People do not always devote enough reflection to such topics, and they follow a way which is obviously dictated by some particular interest. I'm alluding to this, to this thinking that the listings in London will save the Romanian capital markets, which is like even it's completely contradictory, right? So yeah.
These are all my questions. If you have something else to add about the mass privatization process, about the result, about the concentration at the SIF, about the other things.
Well, I think that the Romanian state will take will take good decisions as regards companies in which the state has large stakes, because well, it may happen if the policymakers in Romania understand that having a liquid, vibrant capital market serves the interest of the general economy, and also helps solving a lot of problems that the public administration has. So I'm hoping for this, and that this will be accompanied by the same processes within the private entrepreneurial circles in Romania, and that there will be, as a result, there will be a participation of different categories of investors, individual retail clients from Romania, but also institutional capital. I hope that the pension fund will be normally, a very important actor of the capital market. And only in this way, Romania can be even more on the radars of institutional, global, international investors.
Mr. Sobolewski, thank you very much for this interview.